huge payday, we are hearing from former Vice President Al Gore on why he decided to sell his media company, Current TV, to Al Jazeera, a network that has expressed some extremely anti-American views in the not-too-distant past, in particular, its Arab wing. He sold to Al Jazeera English, but they too have come under heavy criticism for some of their anti-American alleged biases. Take a listen to Mr. Gore's response when he was questioned by Matt Lauer about the sale of his network to Al Jazeera on the Today Show.
Yet even as you sold to Al Jazeera, you in the book blast other television news programs saying this: virtually every news and political commentary program on television is sponsored in part by oil, coal, and gas companies, not just during campaign seasons, but all the time, year in and year out, with messages designed to soothe and reassure the audience that everything is fine, the global environment is not threatened. And the critics jumped. And they said, here's the guy who just sold Current TV to Al Jazeera, which gets an undetermined amount of funding from the country of Qatar, which gets its money from oil reserves. Isn't there a contradiction in that?
I certainly understand that criticism. I disagree with it, because I think Al Jazeera has obviously long since established itself as a really distinguished and effective news-gathering organization.
But if you get funding from a country that bases its wealth on fossil fuels, and fossil fuels are the enemy you target in climate change, isn't there a bit of hypocrisy in that?
Well, I get the criticism. I just disagree with it, because this network has established itself. It's objective. It's won major awards in countries around the world. And its climate coverage, as I said a moment ago, has been outstanding and extensive.
David Bossie is president of the Citizens United Advocacy Group. He once worked as a congressional investigator and has been a political activist for more than a decade now. Wow. So he gets the criticism. He just disagrees with it because Al Jazeera is such a distinguished and effective news-gathering organization whose climate coverage he likes. Does that do it for you?
Well, if this wasn't so dangerous, it would be laughable. Look, this is Al Gore making $100 million on the sale. That's what he personally is reported to have made. $100 million on the sale of his station, Current Television, to Al Jazeera. That's what this is about. So let's not talk about hypocrisy. I think it's ridiculous that he would even make that argument. I find it funny. But he made $100 million. Let's just call it what it is.
Lauer had him dead to rights. He had him dead to rights. Because that soundbite, that full-screen quote they put up from Al Gore's book, where he talks about how virtually every news and political commentary program on television is sponsored in part by oil, coal, and gas companies, and the evil of that, all right? So he's upset that oil has an influence on news and political commentary programs. And so Matt Lauer asked him, so then why would you sell to Al Jazeera that gets all of its funding, a huge portion of its funding, from oil, from big oil in Qatar? And all he could really say was, I understand the criticism, but I disagree with it. Well, why? Why do you disagree with it?
Well, he disagrees with it because he made $100 million. But my point, listen, this is an outrage. This sale is actually an outrage. And I think that people should really be up in arms. Look, Al Jazeera is a mouthpiece for the Muslim Brotherhood. They're the mouthpiece for Hamas. They're the mouthpiece for Al-Qaeda. They are a dangerous operation. They're a propaganda organization that feeds the hatred that is boiling up against America and Americans across the world, especially in the Middle East. And that's what makes this, being able to gin up anti-Americanism here in America through Al Jazeera is now, in my opinion, a very dangerous future for all of us.
Well, it's not, I mean, Al Jazeera Arabic is the one that's been deeply problematic. And this is Al Jazeera English, but it's also been problematic. I mean, they hired a former Nightline correspondent who said he had to quit because of the severe anti-American bias, at least in part, that was his reason, from leaving that network. And they haven't been picked up by virtually any cable distributor here in the United States. They couldn't get on the air. So who should help them out but the former Vice President of the United States of America?
He's 500 votes from being President of the United States. And I think this is a very un-American thing to have done. To give Al Jazeera a foothold here in this country, in my opinion, is un-American.
how does the rationale that he tried to offer, other than I just disagree, was their coverage when it comes to environmental issues, in his view, has been outstanding and extensive. Well, when he lambasts the news organizations in his book, he doesn't talk about how, oh, but this network covers climate change fairly, and this network, I'll give them a... I mean, he's upset about the influence of big oil in the news. And does he now make himself the #1 perpetrator of big oil's influence in the news by this sale?
Absolutely. Look, you have big oil buying current television. That's what it is. That's all it is. Al Gore can make whatever excuses he can, hang his hat on whatever he wants. But the American people understand. And by the way, Al Jazeera Arabic, Al Jazeera English, the American people don't care. Al Jazeera is Al Jazeera from your average American's point of view, and I think that is why the American people will reject this television station. I hope that they have trouble staying on the air.
What do you think this does to Al Gore's legacy? I mean, there's still a lot of people in this country who do love him and believe in his climate change fight, and think he should have been president back in 2000. But
that's right.
I mean, when that exchange with Matt Lauer, which was just so telling, what does it do anything? Do you think to his legacy, his reputation?
I got to tell you, I think it does. And when it comes from someone like Matt Lauer, who's, kind of an easygoing interviewer, he's not the most confrontational. He really bit into Al Gore, in my opinion, and showed the hypocrisy that is Al Gore. And I really do think Al Gore has devastated his legacy. When he was somebody who was thought of in American history as walking away. Remember back in 2000, what happened? He came within 500 votes of winning the presidency, and what he did, people thought highly of him and how he dealt with it, and I think he's really destroyed that.
Well, I wonder whether he was expecting that from Matt. He may have gotten more than he bargained for, but I'll take. I mean, Matt Lauer has given a lot of people a hard time, maybe unexpectedly in some cases, but Al Gore got the full treatment today. All right, David, thank you.
Thanks very much for having me.
Well, that's.